everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today's video is the first gameplay of a tier 11 tank, thanks to one of our heroes today, the Grimmy, who's going to be playing in the new tier 11 American heavy tank. It is the T803. This is the new highest damage per minute that you can achieve on a tier 8 vehicle. However, it's not the base damage per minute that's special on this vehicle with a 6.72 second reload, but the more that this tank hits its opponents, the more that the bar will fill up on the left, taking the 6.72 seconds and reducing it by pretty much an entire second. And that's a terrifying thing for a vehicle that has 420 alpha damage to be hitting you 10 times a minute. So this vehicle, if you also incorporate things like adrenaline rush, close quarters combat, when you're near your allies, as we can see the Grimmy is using the side-by-side cruise skill as well, this thing can kind of pack 4,500 damage per minute in World of Tanks. That is more than kind of like one mouse or 1 1/3 mouse a minute, because that's how we count damage per minute in World of Tanks. We count how many mouse you can kill, right? And so immediately, for all of you who have been living under a rock, World of Tanks 2.0 is out, and if you're wondering what that paint is on the enemy vehicle, that's called the armor flashlight. And now, when you're stationary, or as I found on my stream yesterday, if you're using, I believe, the hacker's ability, which kind of tricks the game into almost thinking that you're stationary, or alternatively when you're using the double on any of the British heavies, because again your dispersion goes to kind of like the base value, that the armor flashlight still works. And so that indicates on the enemy tank where you have no chance to pen, where you have a chance to pen, or where you're kind of like between a 1 and a 99% chance to pen, which will be yellow. So it's kind of like red light, green light in this kind of situation, right? Hopefully looking for more green lights on the enemy tanks, although I have to admit, with how crazy the armor is on some of these tier 11s, there seems to be a lot more red lights for me for quite a lot of the vehicles that I'm playing, and I'm mostly playing my top tier tanks. So as you can see, the Grimmy has now got that bar on the left-hand screen pumped up. And the reload on this vehicle, if I just pause and I do the replay very slowly right now, very slowly, 5.74 reload there. That is a scary amount of damage per minute to have. That damage per minute will be 4,400 to be exact. But again, that's without incorporating things like adrenaline rush. Also, we can see the Grimmy isn't using vents on this vehicle. I'm not saying this is a bad setup in any shape or form, just saying there are more ways that you can be able to increase that damage per minute. With adrenaline rush active with 25% less of your hit points, I think you could probably pack near about 4,600, maybe even kind of like the 4,700 mark on this vehicle. Absolutely staggering stuff. Now, of course, to be able to achieve this damage per minute, you do have to actually penetrate your enemy reliably. And if you do have a break in the action, so to say, then that bar will not be fully heated. So it's one of these kind of tanks that just absolutely pumps. And as we can see, oh, that was a lucky shot. We can see that with 3.5 minutes into this game, the Grimmy has already done 5,700 damage. Man, I'd consider that a good game for any vehicle, let alone a tier 11 tank, right? However, the Grimmy is definitely not done yet, considering the game is completely even. So Grimmy's going to go around the corner, go after the M48, not focus the FP405. One of the cool things about this tank as well is, unlike an autoloader, you can switch between the shells that you want to use. However, the Grimmy's just going to keep pumping the enemy full of heat, and boy does this thing get some nasty heat rounds. We're talking about 345 millimeters of heat pen. That's 5 millimeters better than the T110E5, and 267 AP penetration as well. And as we can see, the Grimmy doesn't actually have an icon indicator of experience inside this vehicle, which means they might not have all of the field mods in this tank. So I'm not sure whether the penetration can maybe go even a little bit higher than that. But actually, looking at the base stats of this tank, it does look like that is with the 5 extra penetration. So, gosh, look at this thing behind. Oh, an unusual bounce on the back of the KR1 there. I bet the Grimmy is kicking themselves in the back that they didn't manage to pick up that top gun. But oh well, they get it with the second shell. And now T803 versus T803. And what you're going to see here is that when you're as good as Grimmy, that all engagements are not equal. Grimmy's going to get up in the face, a little bit of an aggressive ram there. Looks like they have controlled impact because they didn't lose their 24 hit points while the enemy did in that situation. Ram them again, damage the tracks, and wow, that's just absolute obliteration. This vehicle, it's the lower plate that's tragic, and it does have a bit of an awful weak point on top, but apart from that, this thing, it kind of feels a bit more like a T110E4 version of a heavy tank when you look at it, right? It does look like a T110E4 for me, but a T110E4 that is has 420 alpha damage and is firing pretty much 3 times every time you could get a round out in a T110E4. The Grimmy now up to 9,600 damage and also packing 7 kills, and just now a newly buffed Type 5 Heavy to have to deal with, really, in the center of the map. But it's still darn close. He's kind of by himself here, and the Type 5 Heavy, all it has to do is put an HE shell in. And just more full health opponents pretty much just keep appearing for the Grimmy right now. The IS-7, will they push aggressively around the corner? Now with Adrenaline Rush active, the Grimmy's rate of fire will be even better. Oh, man. Let's see what that number goes down to when the Grimmy manages to fully penetrate, hopefully, the Type 5 Heavy. Okay, Type 5 Heavy's on reload. It's got a very long reload, but just watch out that the Type 5 Heavy doesn't ram you here for your 24 hit points. And interestingly enough, I feel like the Grimmy's playing a T110E4 so much that I'm surprised that they can aim over the back of their tank. Yes, that's right, this vehicle does have a fully traversable turret. The Grimmy playing very tight right now, not going for that full DPM on the Type 5 Heavy. Manages to penetrate the shell there. The can opener towards Grimmy's left finishes them off, and now the Grimmy can go after the IS-7. Back with the gold rounds here. Is that IS-4 going to go after Grimmy's can opener? There's still an STRV somewhere. They were towards the south. They managed to push out Grimmy's allies there. Grimmy manages to also go through not only the tracks, but also the hull of the IS-7 there. Turns, and turns. Gets the face hug going again. IS-7 is struggling. Grimmy uses the gun very well to be able to block the enemy shell. And wow. Talk about an adrenaline rush, boys and girls. Absolutely outrageous stuff here. Grimmy's now on 12,000 damage and 7 kills. And how long have they had 24 hit points for? At least since the Grimmy was on about 8,000 damage, I feel, here against the T803. Just what an incredible game for an incredible player, making use of absolutely all of their hit points here, including the extra hit points that the Grimmy got from using the Bond durability device. And ladies and gents, boys and girls, you just saw the new highest damage per minute that you can achieve on a heavy tank in World of Tanks. Congratulations to all of the Chieftain players out there. You had the highest damage per minute from buying like 800 different tier 3 loot boxes for all of about 3 months. Next up, we have iFosterz, who is also playing in their T803 and has an equally stunning game of World of Tanks. We can see that iFosterz is going for that max DPM right now with the Bond vents as well, but not using a rammer directive. Oh no! So we won't really get to see the true maximum DPM that you could achieve on a T803 here. So this vehicle, man, yeah, it's basically like a T110E5, T110E4 hybrid. I really don't like the side of the turret. I think it's going to be really hard to hide. But the T803, for those kind of like frontal engagements, man, it just looks like an absolute devil of a tank. I say that as I notice that it has a 6.66 second reload here, but not for long, right? As we're going to see the gun heat up towards the left. So I do think this looks like one of the easier mechanics on the tier 11 tanks. I've tested 10 of the 15 mechanics so far, and this one definitely feels like an easier one. I think probably the easiest one so far would be for the contriver, because for the contriver, all you have to do is pretty much just play like you previously did in the can opener. So there's absolutely nothing new to learn there. Also, the pillbox mode can be a little bit fiddly on the STRV, but once you're actually in that pillbox mode, it's just point and click, right? A point and click adventure. I'd say the more tricky one to get used to is probably the ASXX4TT. That's definitely the more tricky one, but man, I'm already starting to get used to that bat chat, and it's had my highest damage games so far of my tier 11 tanks. So stay tuned to the channel for that, right? and make sure you subscribe. Don't usually say that very often, boys and girls. Uncle QuickyBaby's terrible for telling you to subscribe, but I must say a massive thank you to each and every one of you who have been enjoying the channel so much recently. The views are gone up so much with World of Tanks 2.0. Thank you very much for everyone who supports the channel by leaving your comments, the likes, the dislikes. It all is not only great for showing interaction with the channel, it's also been really great for me, incredibly motivating to be able to not only stream like a complete goblin right now, but to be getting up that extra couple of hours early to be able to make sure that I continue to keep trying to make daily videos, even though it's not November and December, right? But I digress. Let's focus on the game at hand. And that is, iFosterz is trying to speed run, spending all of the credits on their account right now. And unfortunately, in a way, this is kind of what World of Tanks has become at tier 11. I feel like this is what's happening to me on my free-to-play account as well. You know, Wargaming have taken... Whoa, what was that? That turret, that was like a record for how far that turret flew off that IS-7 there. Well, the Taschenrate definitely blew the head clean off that IS-7. I digress again. What Wargaming has done is they've taken a vehicle which had weak points that you could actually really aim at, like a mouse, and now made it so that it's so small on the Taschenrate that it's tricky. So you need to fire almost twice as many shells to have a chance of being able to go through your opponent's weak points. And then for this can opener here, we can see that iFosterz just managed to, I believe, pen the can opener for, is that the third time this game? And thank goodness they've got the bond rammer. Thank goodness they've got the bond vents, right, guys? Because otherwise they'd be certainly struggling to get these rounds out quick enough. Man, terrifying damage per minute on this thing. We can see a 5.66 reload there for a second for iFosterz, and that's before the adrenaline rush. That's before the close quarters combat, meaning that you could probably get this thing down to about a 5.4 second reload. That is terrifying for 420 alpha damage. Absolutely terrifying. So the other advantages that this vehicle has over, for example, the T110E5, it's 10 degrees of gun depression. The 10 degrees of gun depression on this tank is absolutely massive. Compared to the T110E5's 8 degrees of gun depression that it gets, that just makes this thing oh so much more flexible. And so you can be able to work a ridgeline. It's also very important on this tank because while the weak point is smaller than the T110E5, it's still quite prominent. And unless you manage to use that gun depression, the weak point is still going to be quite visible. I can see Foster's visual frustration right now, just wanting to get in with their full health tank and keep farming, especially as they seem to be losing base. And they say the Taschenrate they're going to help, but still very much a Canadian play there. Still gives time for the enemy team, their team to be able to filter through the gap. But now it's back to Farm Town, and that is the Taschenrate's lower plate getting absolutely cooked by the T-803. Off with the head of one of the Tier 11 heavy tanks, and this one, not even a scratch at 7,000 damage. And when I still see 8,000 hit points left on the enemy team, you know it's time to go. And we can see that iFosterz has definitely been very sweaty because they're already grinding for the Dravets right now. Managed to get the Windhund and already on the Dravets. Well, it's time to see if you can manage to pick up a few more kills in this game of different tank types to be able to get that Dravets Mission 3 done. Make sure, by the way, boys and girls, if you haven't done so already, that you do start the campaign for the next set of personal missions if you don't want to continue the old set of missions. Otherwise, you will be in a bit of a pickle. You won't be progressing towards the Windhund. I can already hear the cries of pain for everyone who's going, no, I've been wasting my time the last couple of days. But don't worry, there's still lots of World of Tanks to go around. A little less World of Tanks for the T-803 on the enemy team there. And what do you notice about our two heroes today? That they've both managed to vanquish a T-803 on the enemy team. All right, so iFosterz now going after a 430U. Only has 4 heat rounds left. I think they've spent probably something silly like 150,000 credits on ammunition this game. But you know what? When you're contesting like a 10,000 damage game, do you care about losing a few credits? Probably not. Right round the corner, and ooh, a little. Are they doing a good old Christian side hug here? I wouldn't give a Christian side hug to a 430U. And iFosterz actually whiffs a shell there. Bit awkward, but recovers the shell there. Puts one into the lower plate, I believe, on the 430U. Right into the side, over 10,000 damage. And man, what is the DPM check right now with emergency? I didn't really think about emergency. Was that 5.59? 5.59 reload with emergency, boys and girls. And that's not even with adrenaline rush. 5.66 there when the emergency fades off. Just staggering stuff. That's like a tortoise. It's like a tortoise reload, but with slightly better alpha damage of the 420. And we can see iFosterz seems to be pretty hyped about the fact that they've done 11,000 damage this game. Shaking of the mouse, but they still have 3 vehicles left to deal with. Just constant action, constant grind, and these high damage per minute tanks with great frontal armor are just fabulous for being able to push through these messy situations. Alright, so iFosterz actually decides that they're going to repair their tracks in this situation. I guess with a 40-second repair time that they probably thought that, hey, if I get my tracks back on, maybe the AMX 1305 is going to struggle to be able to take them off. And was that a good decision? Was it a bad decision? I think it's a very advanced decision, right? To think about repairing your tracks manually to be able to be ready for an engagement later on. And considering that you can get your repair time when you have the consumable reduction time on your commander, as well as also a large repair kit down to like 49 seconds. What a different game we play, boys and girls, compared to back in the day, right? Where you could only use your repair kit a single time in the battle. Once it was used, that was it. Now we have 49-second repair everything consumables that also improve your repair time on your vehicles as like a passive ability. World of Tanks. It's very different these days. Very different. In some ways for the better, in some ways for the worse. If you sit down for about the next 3 hours, I could probably tell you. I can all imagine that people can have a little bit of a stretch. Okay, QuickyBabs, you promised it, right? Ha. Not in today's video. Today's video is focusing on whether the T803... By the way, when a random event happens, this actually opens up now, and there's an opportunity to go between this area, which is pretty funky. I'm not sure it was really necessary. It was a bit of a choke point on the map, but I think a choke point for a reason. But a pretty cool kind of area there to watch out for if you are playing random events in World of Tanks. So, as I was saying, T803, is it the new best tier 11 heavy? Ooh, 13105 spotted. Oh, easy, easy, easy. And now with the artillery getting hit as well, that means that iFosterz is going to know where an arty is. And let's just hope that Bot Heine on the enemy team doesn't try to drown themselves, and it gives iFosterz a chance to do 12,000 damage. And fair play to the 261, not drowning themselves. And it's a bannable offense, so even if you do find yourself in an arty in a hopeless situation, try to make that situation not hopeless, right? Imagine if the arty had managed to deal with the T803 and then maybe try to bypass the Taschenrate and be able to cap. It's a possibility, right? And it's also just a good possibility to not get yourself drowned, as it is a bannable offense if somebody was to go out of their way to report you. But again, I digress for like the 4th time in this video. T803. Awesome frontal grinder. New best damage per minute that's possible on any heavy tank in the game. But I don't think it's the best heavy. I think you're going to have to wait. I think there are a few other heavies that I want to kind of like put their name in the hat for the contention. Not that it's some kind of random event. QuickyBaby just randomly pulls a name out of a hat and declares this the best tier 11 heavy in the game. But this vehicle has a lot of stiff competition. Nevertheless, I think the T803 is an absolute beast. And while I think it's an upgrade over the T110E5, considering the worse matchmaking that you have, and especially eventually that you will have, where more and more people do have their tier 11 tanks, I think it's probably more of a sideways upgrade than a big step up. So congratulations to the Grimmy for 12,124 damage, destroying half of the vehicles on the enemy team and getting nearly 1,800 base experience. They did spend a lot to be able to achieve that, but who cares when you're probably setting yourself, I say probably, a new account record for 12k. And then following it up, iFosterz, high caliber medal in there. Again, what was that? 12,133? Okay, so just 9 damage more than Grimmy. Just had to put that 9 damage more in, right? Again, lost a huge amount of credits. probably don't care for a 12,000 damage game. And thank you so much to both of you for uploading your incredible games on the QuickyBaby.WoT-record.com website. And firstly, a massive thank you to the lovely gentleman who is publicly known as Arkham for updating the WoT Record website. It's such a fantastic resource for the community to share their epic games, and also your only real opportunity to share your epic games with Uncle Scrubby Baby. So if you've had any amazing games in the new tanks, or maybe just the old buffed vehicles, then upload them on the QuickyBaby.WoT-record.com website if you want to have a chance to be featured on the YouTube channel. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about the T803. Do you think it looks absolutely incredible, or do you think it just looks like more of the same that you had with regards to the T110E5? And if you're watching this video as it's released on Friday, I'm going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby with brand new drops tokens. So it's still not too late to come along and start your quest to get a tier 8 premium for free just for watching my streams in September and October. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.